Yo, what's poppin'? I am doing the first iteration of the Tommathan power rankings for week one of Owl. These teams are APAC teams I haven't played yet. They're there so that I can bring things up one at a time and reveal things. But let's go right away. So coming in at number, what is it? 12? It's 12 teams, right? Yeah. Wait, 13? It's 13 teams. Coming in at number 13 is the Paris Eternal. Uh, I, of course, Paris had a very rough week. 3-0'd by Shock and 3-1 to Mayhem. They absolutely got decimated by Shock, and Florida, they did win a Midtown map, uh, but they got rolled on New Queen Streak, they got rolled on Circuit Royale, and they got rolled on Oasis. So yeah, they got a Midtown, but Midtown is a Mickey Mouse map, man. That second point is so hard that like anyone could hold that. Uh, I'm not sold on the structure of this team. I'm not like Glister is doing God's work, but I'm not sold on Naga. I'm not sold on this Don Vestola, and I do like their backline, but I don't see like they have no real identity at this point. I think Glister doing work, so for that reason, I'm gonna put them at the bottom of the power rankings. Number 12, the Vancouver Titans. Vancouver had a very close game against Boston, which keeps them out of the bottom floor, to be honest. But then they also got 3-0'd by London, who is not going to be very high on this power ranking. But uh, Vancouver, they're very, very mid. I'm not sure. Their rotation with Aspire, Shock, not mid even. They're not mid because they're at the bottom. Uh, but their rotation with Aspire and Shockwave and Psycho was a little confusing. Aspire was on Genji at some points, which makes no sense to me. Uh, Skyreaper is not. He's struggling quite a bit. Probably one of my lowest rated flex supports in NA. Maybe the lowest. Masa is doing well though, so at least they have that bright spot. And False, I think he can be a okay solo tank for them if they hang around the bottom of the league still. But as of right now, I don't see his vision on the main tank characters from Overwatch 1 yet. Just the potential to, but for that reason, I'm gonna have to put them very low on the standings. Although they did take two from Boston, but Boston's not exactly a top tier team either. So moving on to number 11, we have the New York Excelsior. New York had a pretty tough schedule. They played Glads and Atlanta, and they did take a map off Glads, but it was very close. And they got rolled by Atlanta, and they got pretty rolled by Glads for the remainder of that series. Uh, I just don't see like of course it's hard with the strength of schedule, but I didn't see a lot of fight in them, especially in Atlanta. They just rolled over and died. Uh, I'm not sure about this. Like, Yahi was locking the Echo hardcore in the first match, and then he toned it down a little bit in the match against Atlanta, but they did worse in that one, right? So I don't know. I'm not sure what's gonna happen. Gang Ninja on Lucio, not great, not stellar to say the least. Put him play Vulcan. Go ahead, play Vulcan. He's on that roster. Go ahead, give him a play. But I don't know. Not a lot of cohesion. Not a lot of. I don't know. I mean, it could have been obviously the strength of schedule, and it's a little hard to judge. But if they end up losing, it's like next week card as well. I would not be surprised. They play Vancouver and Shock. They have a tough schedule. I could see them losing to Vancouver. They're right beside each other. I see the vision. Uh, so yeah, Vancouver bottom or New York bottom three. Moving on to number 10, the London Spitfire. Now, London got 3-0'd by Shock quite hard, but they did 3-0 Vancouver. So my reason for having them so high is that they're the ones that are playing Rush. They're spamming Rush, right? And they have what they're doing. You have that core identity with this team. You see how they can win matchups. You see, oh, Vancouver struggled against the Rush. Well, we don't know. Maybe the Dallas Fuel struggle against Rush. We don't know. Maybe. I can see plausible ways where London can punch up and can get some wins here. So I'm gonna put them above New York, Vancouver, and Paris for here. And I like their identity. You know they have a structure, right? They have a real structure. And although I don't know, backbone on May, kind of at times. Sparker's been going crazy, which is great for them. You need it. So I don't know. I like them at bottom four. I like him at a bottom three, to be honest. I'm a big fan. So moving on to bottom five, number 9, I think, is the Florida Mayhem. Florida lost 3-1 to Atlanta, lost wins 3-1 against Paris. But their win over Paris doesn't mean a lot to me because Paris is at the bottom, and their win against Atlanta, it looked good, but then and Eichenwald looked good too, but the rest of that series did not look good. Someone locking Roadhog makes me question some of the coaching decisions behind the bench, but eh, I don't know. I don't rate this very high because Checkmate plays well, right? Checkmate played pretty well. He played well against Paris for sure, but against his other teams, but against who is it? Atlanta. My bad. Hydron's been performing well, but someone leaving some question marks. Sir Majed playing well. Animo also. Well, Animo's like playing the very passive, like living Lucio style mostly, but not sure if that's what we need. Or that's what Florida needs right now. You see a lot of these teams with very aggressive Lucios doing well, so I don't know if living is enough for Lucio. It's in 5v5, you need to do a little more. So I don't know. Florida's gonna be down there. Not a bad team, but definitely not a great team. Moving on to number 6 at the bottom, which is what, number 8? There are 8 teams left? Yeah, number 8, the Boston Uprising. Boston, 3-2 map thriller against Vancouver, and a win against the Gladiators. A win of a map against the Gladiators, but that series was pretty close. They were playing Glads pretty close. Uh, so maybe I should have had them higher, but I do this as I go throughout the week. But Vancouver or Boston have some question marks still. Punk, Itzel, Marvel. We saw Marvel play, and Itzel play a map, I think. And Punk comes in. Punk being the Doomfist guy looked pretty good on the Doomfist. Uh, Victoria got hard dipped by Ons, so I don't know what the future holds for them. Valentine was playing well, but he also had some questionable plays where he ended up dying first a bit. I definitely think Boston can move up quite easily, and I think this team is better than they look, but they're kind of there's something lacking here compared to the teams ahead of them. There's no the star power, I guess, but Striker's there, so you think, well, maybe Striker's the star power. I don't know. Something feels off about this team. I don't feel the punch from them. Like, yeah, they did play Glad's kind of close, but they were never in the driver's seat of that match. I don't know. Maybe I should have them higher. Maybe I could. Maybe they can be higher than the next team, which is Washington at 7. They could be higher than Washington, but of course anyone could be. It's power rankings. I'm not even doing tier breaks. I'm just doing order because tier breaks can change, order can't change. You can see the progression. So Washington Justice go crazy against Toronto and end up losing to Dallas very hard. So, oh my God, my eye. Okay. So we would expect a closer match against Dallas, but I'd still expect a loss from them. But because they got kind of thrashed by Dallas overall, right? Not a great showing from them. But against Toronto, they were down after one map, but they really came back and they pulled up. And was playing well. Kalios, Zarya gameplay. Not sold on teams that are running the Zarya as much anyway, but I don't know. Decay was doing great and Happy was doing pretty good. So Decay was still doing well against Dallas, and so was Krillin. Krillin actually has surprised me. I thought Krillin was doing quite well. So Washington ahead of Boston here. Losing 3-0 to Dallas is hard, but Boston could also easily lose 3-0 to Dallas, so that's just a strength of schedule thing you're looking at after week one. But Washington's not beating the mid allegations, and you know who else is not beating the mid allegations? The Toronto Defiant at number 6. Uh, thought they had something against Washington after a map. Did not happen. They did beat Houston, who I believe I had them at 1 or 2 in the power rankings at the time of that match. 'Cause I was very impressed against Dallas, but Toronto Defiant failing to beat the mid allegations after 1 week. They looked pretty good against Houston, but Muse is going too quick sometimes. Like you see him jump in, and Twilight has no LOS, and he's just jumping in and he's just dying, and then Finale follows with him, who I have also been very impressed by for the most part. Sometimes he does just feed, but I don't know. Sometimes this Toronto roster just feeds very hard, for not a lot of reasons. Very disappointing against Houston when they got the Roadhog. They had the Roadhog shenanigans with the Bastion, and they hooked Dante, and then they don't even cap the first point despite getting a free first push. So it's very sad there. But you can see the coaching going on in the back. You can see them playing with Zarya on Circuit Royal. Hopefully they never do that again. Not a fan of that pick. But I think they're pretty mid. You know, they're in the good mid spot. So now we are moving on to number 5 with the Dallas Fuel. Hard to rate Dallas higher after getting thrashed by Houston, but then they thrashed Washington. But I don't know. Hard to place this team right now because there really was not a lot happening in that Houston game, and then there was a lot happening in the Washington game. So I'm not sure what the main change was there. Hanbin playing Zarya, I'm not sure how much success they'll find on Zarya against a team like like a higher tier team. I'm not going to do spoilers yet, I guess, but whatever. You know who's left. But I like Fearless, and I like Hanbin. Neither of them really excelled on the Doomfist, I thought. I thought they were both okay, serviceable, but neither of them really was going crazy. Sparkle's doing well. Edison did not impress against Houston. He was alright against Washington, but I was more of a team diff, so it's hard to really rate it. Fielder was playing well, but until Dallas show they can hang with like a higher team, one of the big 3 teams, I guess we'll call them. That's hard to rate them higher. I am going to put the Houston Outlaws above Dallas, despite losing to Toronto, because Houston 3-0's Dallas on stage. Maybe a stage buff going on there. That's hard to say, but they look dominant. They were playing. Maybe I think that they played the best Overwatch in that match of the weekend. It was very good. We saw them play a D.Va with a Pharah and an Ashe, which was very good. Dante on Doomfist looked very strong, but Dante, I got to pick up some other tanks then too, so he doesn't have to be stuck on Doomfist the whole time. Because Toronto found out how to deal with that Doomfist and ended up beating them. So, I don't know. I rate Houston beating Dallas higher than Dallas beating Washington. Because Dallas does look like the better team than Washington, right? So, I don't know. I think they played Toronto close. It was pretty close, but Toronto did end up kind of winning those last 2 maps kind of decisively. Easily, it could have been a 3-1 or even a 3-0 for Toronto, but Houston have some fight. They have some. They clearly have. They know what they're doing, right? They have an idea of what they're doing, and they just need to perform it. Last round, Lucio is actually not as bad as some of the other main support or other flex supports like Ging and Jim, or Violet even. But yeah, Houston gonna be my number 4. Moving on to number 3, I'm putting the LA Gladiators. Glads, of course, beat both of their teams, beat New York and Boston 3-1. But that doesn't do a lot for them because both those teams are in the lower half. But I can say the same about Shock, who have yet to come up, as their teams are in the lower half. But Gladiators play very good. them losing maps kind of shows what's going on here. Like I like what they're doing, but they're very strong, right? The Ons is going crazy. Padafon looks great. They're definitely a top team. They know what they're doing. They have an idea. You see them whenever they bring in Skewed for the Brigida, which is still going out, which still has a niche in this meta. Reiner's looking fantastic. Space lost his only map, but it was very close, and I feel like I don't think he loses that every time. It was close, but it's hard to know where you're putting Space right now in this current meta. So Reiner's just getting most of the play, but that does not hurt them at all, right? So Glad's looking very strong, very good. They did play lower teams, but Boston definitely have some potential to punch up, and New York maybe don't. But nerves, first thing, whatever, it happens. You know, you can drop a map. That's a big deal. And Gladiators look very strong, very cohesive. So I'm gonna put them at number 3. Moving on to number 2, San Francisco Shock. Despite playing against London and Paris and 3-0ing, two very lower teams on this list, they look dominant the entire time, right? There was no real like stutter in their step. They were winning it, right? It was it wasn't a blowout. Like it wasn't like London were being spawn camped the whole time. They weren't playing against a random GM lobby, but Shock looked very strong, very decisive. Kaluge looks great. This whole roster looks great. Finn looks phenomenal. Finn looked so great. The Sam haters are quiet. Proper Rookie of the Year candidate. It's hard to find a flaw in what they played, and it was very good. But unfortunately, it's hard to rate them higher whenever they beat my number 13 and my number 10 on this tier list. So I could put them ahead of Atlanta, but I really can't because Atlanta played the best Overwatch, maybe that they ever have, despite it only being week 1 of the new season and them making it to semifinals last year, or to making it to not the semifinals. They were second, right? They made it to the finals, but I still think they might have been playing their best Overwatch in this new 5v5 format. Dropping their first map to Florida happens. They look dominant the rest of it, right? Not a lot. Well, I guess Eichenwald didn't look dominant for Florida against Florida, but they were definitely ahead, and they just dominated New York. So yeah, not a lot. These guys don't even have Speedily yet. They're coming in later in the year when they get Speedily. Kai looks great. Nero looks great. Nero looks better than he did last season, I think. Gator didn't get any gameplay yet, but I would pray. Hawk on the Doom. You could argue he was the best looking Doom, I think. He was setting up engages so well, and Atlanta just controlled the tempo of this match. Of anything they do, they're the ones setting the pace, which is huge. OGUV are probably the best backline that we've seen together. I don't think any other backline is better than them right now. Looking at backlines quickly, no. I don't see a backline that's even close to as good as OGUV has been. You see the antis come out. You see Hawk engaging it. I don't know. They're so good. It's gonna be hard to dethrone them, I think. I haven't looked at future matches because it doesn't really matter. So for these, but yeah. So this is what I'm gonna go for my Owl Week 1 power rankings. First thing. Let me know what you think. Yeah. Give it a subscribe, give it a like. If you'd like my reasoning, if you want me to go more in depth on something, I probably can. Yeah, cool. Great.